Taylor. Miami did with Ryan Fitzpatrick. The great Patrick Mahomes started one game his rookie year, and we're dealing with the most unusual offseason there's ever been. No OTAs, no training camp, and they put him out on day one, and now they exacerbate that, Molly, by he drops back 450 times. That's the most of any quarterback in the NFL. He's been sacked the third most amount of times. I take no pride in this because I think Joe Burrow is going to have a great career, but we've talked about this for months. They couldn't have handled this situation worse. This is a 10-year player. It's not about what he does in 2020. It's about putting him in a position to be successful for the next 10 years.
Stephen A.
Mac?
I'm happy
I'm sorry.
No. I'm happy to.
Me. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I'll just say this. I think, Mike, you're right about a lot of those details. However, even if you're looking for, like in terms of the Cincinnati's offensive line, I get it. And you think about that 2004 draft class, guys like Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger, and Eli and Rivers with the Iron Man streaks and everything, and Kurt Warner was there when Eli got there to take some of those shots early on. And yet, the way the NFL works nowadays, I don't have to tell you, is you want that guy to get some experience in his rookie year. You expect year two to be the development year, and by year three, you really know what you have. And so teams don't want to waste any time if they feel their guy is ready. Now, in terms of protecting him behind that O-line, I get that, but that's the nature of the game. He's been hit a lot, and I suppose you can say, well, the more you get hit, the more likely you are to suffer catastrophic injury, and then here you go, right? But like Eli was hit a lot early too, and guys like Rivers and those guys, and the luck of the draw or the way they were put together, whatever it is, they had Iron Man streaks. And so, like a shot like the one he took, which by the way was so I don't even want to see the replay. That looked ugly to me. That looked bad. The shot he took is more likely to happen behind a porous offensive line, but and quarterbacks are more mobile than they used to be. But I think the formula is going to be for the foreseeable future, it seems to me, you want to get that guy experience right away. The line's probably not going to be that good. That's why they were picking so high in the draft. If you have a top picked, upper first round pick at under center. And, he's going to take some shots. And if he's durable, he's going to maybe have a great career. And if he's not, maybe he won't. And Burrow just got caught in a bad situation. I think if they could do it again, some of the details you point out would be done differently. But the basic idea of getting him a lot of reps as a rookie, I think, is here to stay.
Mike Tannenbaum, always good to see you, buddy. Let me say this. There's no secret here. I disagree with you. You know this. What I would tell you is this. If your argument is that the Cincinnati Bengals had a putrid offensive line, then I'm with you, because the number one objective is to protect the quarterback. We get that. And Joe Burrow was sacked 32 times this year, dropped back 404 passes, was sacked about 32 times, hit considerably more. If that is your argument, I'm with you. I won't refute that part. But the other stuff, hell no, Mike Tannenbaum. I'm not going with that. Last time I checked, the Cincinnati Bengals don't play in front of crowds and give them, allow them to watch in person free of charge. With that perpetual inclement weather in Cincinnati, Ohio, usually cold and what have you, you got the paying customer that's coming out to the game to watch a team that had not won a playoff game since 1990. And Max Kellerman, do you know who they beat in that playoff game before they lost to the Raiders in a divisional playoff game? The Cincinnati Bengals beat the Houston Oilers. Long before they went to Texas. The Houston Oilers. Okay? That's the last time the Cincinnati Bengals have won a playoff game. They kept Marvin Lewis there too long. 16 years, 7 playoff appearances, 0-7 in the postseason. When you have subjected a local fan base to that level of torture, if you want to tell me, Mike Tannenbaum, don't play Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow is going to get himself hurt because that offensive line can't protect him, I'm totally with you. I stand down. I don't argue. But outside of that, my God, you've got to give the fans something to root for. You've got to give them something to hope for. Remember, A.J. Green didn't even want to stay until they drafted Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow went and had a conversation with him because, yo, man, it's a new day. I'm here. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. You got to make sure that you have a culture in place, even more so than protecting them. It's helping to build a culture where guys would actually want to come and stay and actually play for you rather than being contaminated by this perpetual moribund franchise who, by the way, is 0-13-1 on the road under Zach Taylor. I'm sorry. I got to play him unless my offensive line is so awful. That's the only excuse.
Stephen A., I agree. And the only way you're going to turn around that perpetual moribund franchise, take a page out of the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes played in one game his rookie year. No one's talking about that. So if you want to please those paying customers in Cincinnati, create your own icon, your own foundation. The object of the exercise is to put Joe Burrow in the best place to be successful, short term and long term.
What?
So my point is two parts. One is play Andy Dalton early until you know what's going on in terms of protections, understanding how to slide protections and know the nuances of your offense. And then secondly, guys, more fundamentally, how about Gio Bernard? How about Joe Mixon? How about a little bit more balance to your offense? I work with Zach Taylor. I like Zach Taylor, but I'm sure if he went back and did an autopsy of how we got here, he would have been more balanced. He would have had Dalton much the way that Tua's had Ryan Fitzpatrick, Justin Herbert has had Tyrod Taylor, and bring them along slowly. And I would push back too on this, Stephen A., which is this year, Andy Dalton early on probably would have given you a better chance to win than Joe Burrow because he has a lot of time in the offense, much the way we've seen other quarterbacks operate teams that they've been with for years and years and years.
Hold on.
Mike, in terms of the injury, real quick, Stephen, I'm just curious. But I want to know about the injury. How when you say knowing the nuances of the offense, are you suggesting had Andy Dalton started, Joe Burrow would have enough knowledge of the offense that he wouldn't have just suffered a catastrophic injury? Because even had you started Andy Dalton, eventually Joe Burrow's playing, and it's a bad line.
No, and look, I would say this. I don't think that's exactly what happened yesterday. That could have happened on play 1 or play 1,000. That's fair. However, he was sacked 32 times, and the cumulative effect of those hits, ask Deshaun Watson, that doesn't help quarterback development. And again, you want to make this guy successful for 10 years, not 2020. And again, you could look at Mahomes. I saw in my own career with the New York Jets, Chad Pennington sat for 2.5 years behind Vinny Testaverde. And I'm not saying Dalton is perfect, but he would have been functional. And again, it would have allowed Burrow to understand how to protect himself better. So it wasn't just about the catastrophic injury about yesterday, but it was also about all those unnecessary hits he's already taken.
Well, see, Mike Tannenbaum, you have to be careful because your boy Stephen A. Smith actually watches you, and I recall you praising Joe Burrow. I recall you bringing up the fact that he's completed 65% of his passes, that he was playing decent football. That when you look at him and Justin Herbert, obviously Tua came on a little bit later, but you were raving about that. I've watched you bring that up. I didn't hear you bring up, oh, he shouldn't be playing. That's number one. Number two, when you talk about Mixon, when you talk about Giovanni Bernard, when you talk about how if Zach Taylor did an autopsy, he might have done things differently. I agree with you there, but that doesn't mean you don't play Joe Burrow. And then when you take into account the fact that don't compare Kansas City with Alex Smith as their quarterback before they handed the realm to Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Chiefs had Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy. They were going to the playoffs. They were a decent, respectable team. They weren't the Cincinnati Bengals that had missed the playoffs the 4 previous years. So I respectfully disagree with you in that regard. Joe Burrow, to me, the only argument to justify not putting him in that starting lineup, especially since we saw what he can do when he's on that football field and how he got that team to believe in him. The only argument is that my offensive line stinks so bad, I'm putting this dude on suicide watch. That's the only reason why you don't play him. If it's not that argument, there is no other argument to make against putting him in the lineup.